Today, China fight back after U.S. Navy steps up war preparations with China in South China Sea. U.S. tensions escalated once again after an American regiment's badge sparked outrage from Beijing. Last month, the U.S. conducted a training event called Exercise Agile Reaper, which focused on how to deal with naval ships in the Pacific region. The exercise involved the use of MQ-9 Reaper surveillance drones, with the airmen wearing a red silhouette of the Chinese state on their arms. In defiance of any threat from the Chinese government, the U.S. claimed the exercise was to demonstrate the rapid capabilities of the MQ-9 drone to any wartime arena. Lieutenant Colonel Brian Davis told Air Force magazine it's a demonstration of U.S. capability to rapidly move the MQ-9 anywhere in the world, to unfamiliar locations, and then get out and show the operational reach capabilities of the MQ-9 to provide maritime domain awareness to our joint service partners. The bold move by the U.S. Air Force sparked anger in China, with Beijing warning it will fight to the end if war breaks out between the two. Chinese state used on their airmen's badges. Beijing also claimed the U.S. was attempting to fire a warning shot to Xi Jinping. An opinion piece for the state-run Global Times, which acts a mouthpiece for the government, claimed China will shoot down any warplane which dares venture near to its borders. It read Washington is stepping up preparations for war against China, and this type of drone that has participated in murders and other attacks around the world will also play a role in it. The strategic signal sent from the exercise. China will shoot down incoming U.S. warplanes, no matter they are unmanned or manned. If those planes cause actual damage to Chinese islands and reefs, we will strike the platforms and bases from which those planes take off. The U.S. military and politicians in Washington should take China warnings seriously, and not have strategic misjudgments that they can do whatever they want and China will swallow the anger. Washington wants to try its luck, the Chinese military and Chinese people will surely rise to the challenge and fight to the end. The U.S. Air Force has not commented on the allegations from Chinese state media. The rhetoric surrounding America's relations with China has escalated rapidly in the last few months. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has constantly warned of the growing threat of Xi Jinping's government to global peace. Ships have been sent to the South China Sea. Accusations over coronavirus have been leveled at Beijing, while sanctions have been placed on Communist Party members. Mr. Pompeo will also visit the East Asia region, the U.S. State Department confirmed. The department said, on October 6 in Tokyo, Secretary Pompeo will participate in the second meeting of the Quad foreign ministers of Australia, India, and Japan. He will also have meetings with his Japanese counterparts to discuss issues of mutual concern. Secretary Pompeo will also visit Ulaanbaatar October 7 and Seoul October 7 to 8 for meetings with senior officials. Although Mr. Pompeo will not visit Taiwan, China has issued a warning to the U.S. following two official visits. Health Secretary Alex Azar visited the state to reaffirm cooperation over the pandemic. More recently, Keith Krach, the Under-Secretary of State for Economic Growth, Energy, and the Environment, also journeyed to the state, sparking a series of military drills by China. Shipbuilders in Shanghai have laid out the hull of China's first modern aircraft carrier, which could be launched into the water in the coming months as it enters the latter phases of construction, according to new satellite images and state media reports. A nonpartisan think tank in Washington show for the first time sections of the carrier being assembled in the open at a dry dock at the sprawling Jiangnan shipyard. The vessel, which will be China's third carrier but the first to be equipped with modern technology to against US, is likely to be larger than the previous two that were based on outdated Soviet designs. At the waterline, the new ship will be about 1,000 feet long and 130 feet wide, the photos show. Funiole, a researcher at the CSIS China Power Project, said it is not yet clear from the images whether the new carrier will have an electromagnetic catapult to efficiently sling fighter jets off its deck, the biggest question mark over current Chinese carrier technology. The USS Gerald R. Ford, commissioned in 2017, was the first carrier to include the cutting-edge feature. Still, the Chinese are showing tremendous capability of designing and fitting out vessels, Funiole said. It's moving along on pace. It's impressive the process they're going through to position themselves at the forefront of carrier technology. The progress of China's third carrier has been of intense interest in rival capitals as well as inside China, where it is seen as a tangible symbol of the country's development into a global power boasting a modern, world-class military. China has commissioned 2 carriers in the past decade. The Liaoning was a retrofit of an old Soviet model, and the second, the Shandong, was Chinese-built but mostly a reverse-engineered copy of the Liaoning. The Shandong entered service in December, and the third carrier likely won't be combat-ready until 2023, Funiole said. The hull of the third carrier is sealed. It could be put into water as soon as the end of this year to be fitted out, Chinese state media reported this week, as similar photos surfaced on Chinese blogs and generated excitement among military hardware enthusiasts. The hawkish Global Times newspaper said the photos showed the carrier's construction appeared to be progressing smoothly and cited an unnamed military expert as saying it would likely include electromagnetic catapults. Over the weekend, a well-known scholar affiliated with the Chinese Navy, Li Jia, told a forum in Beijing that China was planning not only a third but also a fourth carrier group. Caixin, a financial news magazine, reported. Most international scholars estimate that China intends to build out a fleet of at least 6 carriers. The U.S. Navy has 11 nuclear-powered carriers in service and plans to introduce several more. An expert on the People's Liberation Army Navy at the S. Rajaratnam School of International Studies in Singapore, said there is still a lively debate in China over the utility of carriers in modern warfare and how they would stack up against the threat posed by U.S. submarines. And both Chinese and U.S. officials have acknowledged in recent years that China's land-based power has already risen to the point where it may be able to keep U.S. forces out of the so-called First Island chain surrounding China, including Taiwan, Japan and the Philippines, in the event of war over Taiwan. For example, geopolitical tensions in the region would suggest that any naval conflict involving China, such as over Taiwan, or disputed outposts in the East and South China Seas, is likely to occur relatively close to Chinese shores. But Chinese military thinkers also increasingly argue that China needs to reach farther into the Pacific with carriers and contest the waters around the more remote second island chain, which include U.S. bases on Guam and Hawaii. Convergence of views around this in the last 5 years as China rolled out its carrier fleet, Ko said. They're seeing the potential of what they have. China is currently the world's second largest military spender and had a 2019 budget of $266 billion versus $718 billion for the United States. The spending rise budgeted for 2020 would be relatively small, the Chinese government announced in May, as the economy encountered structural headwinds, a trade war with Washington and a coronavirus pandemic. Aside from carriers, the Chinese Navy has invested heavily in amphibious landing ships and early warning aircraft to accompany the carriers. The newest satellite photos show the Zhongnan shipyard, hugging the Yangtze River north of Shanghai, has been rapidly expanded with a large basin and purpose-built facilities for large military-type vessels, said Funiole, who called it the future hub of Chinese naval shipbuilding.